ESPN Browns reporter, the great Daniel Oyefusi joins us now. Daniel, welcome to the show, bud.
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, it's always great to have you. I guess we'll start with Shedeur. Seems like the place to. What's the bar for Shedeur tonight in your eyes?
For me, it's not too high. It's pretty normal. It's the first preseason game, so you don't expect everything to be perfect, but you just want him to go in there and to really operate the offense as best he can, run it, make sure everybody can get lined up properly, and just transfer over the things that he's done from practice into the game settings. Again, it's not going to be perfect. There are going to be some issues across the offensive line, maybe guys not in the right spots, but for me, I don't want him to do anything more than he has to do, which is operate the offense and show the accuracy and the position that we've seen through a lot of these training camp practices.
Hey, does Shedeur have more to gain or lose tonight?
I would say he has more to gain because he's starting at fourth on the depth chart. Like, it's not like he's gonna get cut if he has a bad game tomorrow. But I think that with a really good showing, you do. Hey, if he has a big game tonight, I can only imagine what the next week is going to be on the radio, across the national media. Like, there's going to be real conversations and real discussions about, hey, like, have the Browns handle this properly, and should he be getting more of an opportunity? So I think that this is a golden opportunity for him to play most of this game and to show what he has and show that, like, hey, he should be firmly in this quarterback competition, because obviously the way the reps and the practice snaps have been kind of divvied up, he hasn't really been a priority in this competition to this date.
All right, so this is gonna be a topic we have later in the show, but I'm just gonna ask you the question, then see how you take it. Is a mediocre performance from Shedeur tonight the actual worst outcome out of this if you're the Browns?
I wouldn't say so because, again, I don't think that he's necessarily been a priority in this quarterback competition. He's been QB4 on this depth chart. He's gotten the fewest reps out of all these guys when healthy. So if he has a bad game, if he has a mediocre game, obviously you'd like to see him put his best foot forward. But if he struggles a bit, okay, you go back to the drawing board. There's a lot of stuff that you can correct in film study, and just keep on going from there. If anything, it's almost like free money right now. Like, you're just kind of rolling with the opportunity. But if it's a bad game, and you just keep on kind of handling him like the developmental prospect that they've kind of looked at him as.
Daniel, we know obviously that Stefanski said yesterday he's going to play about 50 snaps or so. We don't know how many of that is going to be passes, but if we look at the passes, let's say it's 18 to 25, somewhere in that range. Are you expecting him to be able to throw the ball deep? Are you expecting short routes? What are the expectations for how this offense will look under Shedeur?
Again, I want him to play within the flow of the offense and not force anything. But I will say, like, when we're at those training camp practices, he's taking his chances and he's letting the ball fly a little bit. So I think we're going to see that a little bit. Again, I want him to play within the flow of the offense, and really with a backup and a third string offensive line, that means sometimes, hey, maybe you're going to have to check it down. You're going to have to get to your check down a little bit quicker and maybe not allow these plays to develop, as long as they'd like. But just play within the offense. Like, he doesn't have to do anything out of his nature. He doesn't have to put on a cape for the first preseason game. It's they're keeping the plays vanilla and pretty simple anyway. So I wouldn't expect anything too crazy.
Daniel, looking back to the joint practices, I think the sentiment we got, so I want to see if you agree with this, is that the Panthers defense, or the Panthers first team offense, was just a touch better than the Browns first team offense. Is that how you saw it?
I will say, like, I had my eyes most on the Browns offense, but they're working on dual fields right next to each other. So whenever I look over, like, the Panthers got a lot of red zone work in specifically. So it's like when you're doing like red zone goal to goal, like, you're a little bit closer to the end zone. It might not look as favorably on that defense. They made their share of plays. The Browns defense made their share of plays. I'm not trying to like make excuses or anything, but it's like, Greg Newsom's not out there. They're kind of throwing some of their backup cornerbacks in there and rotating guys in. I wouldn't make too much of it. Like, it's joint practices. Like, both teams get the better of each other. And I don't think, anybody was crowned a champion or crowned the worst team in the league just off the strength of one joint practice for an hour.
What other players are you looking forward to watching tonight?
Really, like all the guys, all members of the rookie draft class. So Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger being kind of in the spine of that defense. I want to see them make a couple plays for as long as they're out there. Harold Fannin, Dylan Sampson, just make a couple plays that lead me to believe that like they can contribute as much as the Browns are probably going to need them to. They don't need to be stars and be all over the field, but just leave us with a player or two that, kind of show us those traits that led us to believe that they can contribute kind of early on.
So big picture, obviously we're talking a lot of Shedeur because today is his first start. Beyond Shedeur, what interests you most about this game?
What interests me most about this game is seeing a lot of the young guys on defense who I think are going to have to step into bigger roles. Again, we're expecting most of the starters to sit out. Obviously Miles, Denzel, Jerry Jeudy, those guys aren't going to be out there. But whether it's Isaiah McGuire, maybe Alex Wright, or I'm not sure if Ronnie Hickman's going to be out there. But if so, he's a guy that's expected to step into a full-time role and be a real playmaker. If those guys are out there, I'm really excited to see how some of these key young defensive guys step in, because remember, there's a bit of turnover on this defense from JOK and Jordan Hicks retiring and Martin Emerson being out. So even a Cam Mitchell, a Miles Harden, like I want to see some of those guys who are going to be expected to play significant roles. I want to see them kind of hold their own and make some plays while they're out there.
So with that, we've talked a lot about the defense, and this has to be the backbone of the thing, right? And so I was thinking about this earlier about the difference between like if they have the 12th best defense and the 5th best defense. Do you think that this Browns defense across 18 weeks has to be a top 5 defense or better for this Browns plan to succeed?
I think so, just because there's just so many question marks on the offensive side of the ball. And if I'm assuming Joe's probably going to start week 1 and be the starter to begin this season. If he's out there and he somehow recaptures, that 2023 magic, that's great. But even Joe said like, hey, like I'm not like shooting for that. Like it's a new season. You can't really bank on that. And with all the questions about the offensive line and the quarterback, and if they have enough playmakers, this defense is really going to have to hold it down and really, really lead the way. Not only as a unit that doesn't give up a lot of points, but a unit that turns the ball over a lot more than they did last year. They're definitely going to need that for the Browns to be, very competitive with all the question marks on offense.
With the latest on Junkkins that came out just yesterday, I can't possibly ask you what you think the timeline is or what the expectation is, but how do the Browns continue to approach this? It's such an odd situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a wait and see situation. Again, obviously he waived his right to a speedy trial, which means that the start of that trial could be pushed out to 2026. I don't know that it necessarily means that it is going to be pushed out that far. If anything, it gives the prosecution more time to look into things and just gives everyone more time to kind of assess the matter. So I don't want to like look too much into that, although it did happen. But it really is a wait and see approach. Again, Andrew Berry said that the framework of the deal is pretty much in place with the second round picks getting more guaranteed money. Jimmy Haslam said he was cautiously optimistic that Junkkins would play at some point this season. But they really have to just wait and see how and when this matter gets resolved before moving forward.
Daniel Oyefusi, ESPN Browns reporter on the Fan Hotline here with Nick and JP as we got preseason game number 1 coming up tonight on this station, Browns Panthers, right around the 7:00 start there. So I do want to know, though, in terms of each one of the 4 quarterbacks, what percentage chance would you give each one of those quarterbacks to start week 1 for the Browns?
I mean, me personally, I'd say Joe is definitely the leader right now, the overwhelming leader. He's taken most of the first team reps. And I know Kevin said he was hopeful that Kenny would be able to come back for next week. But even so, I feel like it's a little, maybe a bit too much of a hill to climb for him to make up all that time lost. I'd say Joe 75%, Kenny 15%, Dylan, I'm not really good at math, 8%, and then I guess that leaves Shedeur with like a 2% chance. And I mean, who knows? That the numbers can change a lot depending on tonight. But I think Joe is definitely the overwhelming favorite to start week 1.
With Kenny, is it just because of the injury and the time he lost there because he's been sidelined?
I think so. And again, I know Tommy Reese and Kevin said that he's still right in there. But I mean, hey, you gotta your availability is your best ability is your availability. And it's just not a lot to go off of outside of 1 week of practice, which they said was really good. But Joe's been in there getting camaraderie, rapport with those guys, and it's tough to. I think it'd be tough for Kenny to make up that difference in an offense that he's still figuring out and getting more comfortable in.
All right, so this brings us to a little bit more of a bigger picture question. We've been asking a fair amount of our guests to just rank the 4 AFC North teams as they see them going into the season. How do you think that that plays out?
Yeah, I mean, definitely would put the Ravens at 1. I think, obviously they're Super Bowl contenders. I think they're going to have a really strong roster. Again, it's just a matter of what they do in the postseason and whether they can, keep that regular season play into the postseason. Number 2, I'd probably put the Bengals. I mean, their defense has nowhere to go but up, but it looks like Tanner McKee kind of lit them up last night. So, I mean, who knows? But it's just like, I just have a hard time believing their defense is going to be like as bad as it was last year, that bad. And then you have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, those guys. I put them at 2. The Steelers, I'll put them at 3. I know they brought a lot of big names, obviously led by Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know if it's going to gel together like maybe they hope. I mean, they'll be right around 9 wins like they always are, but I'm not sure if they're a real Super Bowl contender. And then obviously, I'm putting the Browns at 4, and the quarterback situation in that position is just the big X factor. Like, how much can they get from that position? I feel like it's such a low bar from last year, but if they can get, a little bit more consistent play, I think they can be fairly competitive, but I just don't think they have enough, firepower at the top, enough depth to really keep up with some of the best teams in the AFC.
Daniel, great stuff, buddy. Appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you down the road and enjoy the Super Bowl tonight.
Most definitely.